joining us. And I was thinking about him all through the 10 episodes of watching The Last Dance because I just finished it up on Sunday. I'm like, where is Craig Hodges? Well, he's here with us today. He is a champion of not just the basketball court, 3-point champion, all of that, but also in life because he's out there doing God's work. Let me welcome the one and only Mr. Craig Hodges. Hey, brother.
I appreciate you, sister. Just listening to you, I want to thank you for this opportunity, and hopefully everybody that's listening and watching you, everybody's well and taking care of their family during this madness.
You too. Listen, this is so personal because people are getting sick and dying, so I cannot sit back on the sidelines, and at the same time, I can't be quiet. I'm not just going to give everybody a free pass, so we're going to have an adult conversation because we can argue, fuss, and fight and still get together and do some things. That's how I feel.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. And I think, just the fact that you're able to bring truth to this matters and just to listen before I came on to the conversation you were having. And we're at a point in our history where it's a unique period in that we have really the opportunity to come out with a mature mindset and really make some real conscious decisions with what we do, both with our money, with our time, with our energy, and to be able to galvanize our people in such a way as we never have before. And to the issue of politics and the different, candidates and all of that, right now, my mindset is we have to come together as a people before we make our political decisions and choices. And in that, I mean that we who are athletes and entertainers, I feel like we have the ability and the visibility to call together a collective of our people. And for one, I say before we talk to any of these politicians, we should say, can we get back to the level where it's truly one man, one vote, one woman, one vote, as opposed to just going to some quasi-electoral college that no one really knows the inner workings of and how it actually dictates when it comes out in the end of who the president is and all of that. So to me, right now, more than anything else other than our collective health and mental wellness, I think it's time for us to think in terms of our economic well-being and how we can move forward in a collective, and from that, regenerate our political mindset and choices.
That should happen now. It's too late for November, unfortunately. We can't tackle the Electoral College is not going to be overturned in this election. But this is, again, we have to be people that think forward. There's going to be another election for president in another 4 years, and after that, another 4 years. If these things are a bother now, let's start dealing with them now. So I couldn't agree more. I'm going to ask a question that's strange. Who radicalized you? And I'm using that language on purpose because you came up in an era where in the NBA in particular and all throughout sports, you were different. What happened to you, Craig Hodges, that made you say, I cannot be quiet and just take this check?
Well, for me, when I think about, I was born June 27, 1960. And when I think of all of my colleagues that played in our generation, we all came through that same period of Jim Crow, and that for me, I was blessed that my soul came down in the Hodges household where my mom was the secretary of the Civil Rights Movement. When I walked in the house the day that Dr. King was murdered, I saw my grandmama and granddaddy crying, and I had never seen my granddad shed a tear. So for me, it was something that it sent shivers down my spine. And from that point on, I was driven to find out what was the meaning of it, what was the intensity of that moment that it seared a passion in me to study about my people. And then I was blessed to have Tex Winter, bless his soul, recruit me for Long Beach State and get a chance to study under Dr. Maulana Karinga was my first black studies professor, the founder of Kwanzaa. Dr. Khalid Muhammad was a professor. Amin Ra, all of these brothers taught me research methods and how those research methods could affect and be solution-based. So when I got to the NBA, my mindset, so I think in terms of players who are totally focused, like they, in this whole documentary thing, they talk about how totally focused Michael was on basketball, which is true. I saw it. And for me, I was always, I'm not even going to say split focus, but I know that my mindset was more on my people than the game, and that the game was a way for me to enhance the life not only of my family, but my extended family of African people. So it's not even, it wasn't even a choice of mine. And when we think of that, for me, when I hear the conversations going on and where we are now in this quarantine, I ask my people to research as much as you can about yourself and come out of this thing more with the entrepreneurial spirit and vibration as opposed to working for others. Let's see how we can work for ourselves and create a collective that can be generational in its growth and being.
Today is Nia, which is also purpose. Everyday Kwanzaa here on the
Yes.
Karen Hodges Show, by the way.
So good.
Everyday Kwanzaa. As you walked into the locker room with your talent, what was the climate and the mindset? You know, I was watching again Last Dance, and they talked about that North Carolina Senate race that Jordan said allegedly. Well, he said it that Republicans buy sneakers too. You show up after the championship wearing African garb, which was dope, and ask something of the president of the United States. Had a letter for him. Talk about that a little bit, because that's truth to power.
Well, for me, once again, we were taught when we were babies. We were, like I said, we were part of Jim Crow, so we marched, we wrote letters. So one of the things, I had written letters all through college to politicians who conceded, who had some sort of power over our people. So the night before we got ready to go to the White House, I thought we were going in June after we had actually won the championship, but we didn't actually go until the training camp had started. And it was the night before when I was playing ping pong with one of my homies, and it hit me right then. Man, you didn't wrote letters to everybody else. You got to write one to the president. And at that point in time, it just took a life of its own. And as far as just sat down and thought about what my mom and what me being part of the civil rights movement meant, what it meant to our people, what ancestors had sacrifice for me to be able to go to the White House, for me to be able to be an NBA player, for me to be able to be a collegiate player, in fact. So it was almost a cultural imperative that it happened. And, to this day, that's the most important letter I've ever written, because it wasn't just about me. It wasn't just about black people. It was about those people who have been disenfranchised all over the globe. And you being the most powerful person on the planet, can you consider the issues of those poor people disenfranchised? And if you're going to consider helping someone, especially our issues over 400 years, should be at the top of the list.
What happened once you gave him the letter? Did you ever hear anything back?
Never heard nothing back, but in doing my research for my book and the documentary, and like the Bush Library in Texas has been cool as a fan, man. And even when I went to the White House, it was never really an issue, so to speak. I think the issue was more with the NBA and the visual of me wearing a dashiki, me having, no one even knew about the letter because I couldn't hand it directly to the president. So it was a thing where I gave it to our press secretary, who was Tim Hallam at the time, and he gave it to the press secretary. And, the ramifications came the following season when I was an unrestricted free agent for the first time in my career. I was at, 32 years of age, ready to win another world championship, and the Bulls released me. Now when they released me, I'm at the earning potential. Now, at that point in time in my career, I felt like if I earned $5 million a year, I could leverage $4 million in Chicago and programmatically change violence, change education, change economic development issues with $4 million, because oftentimes we want to make it as though we need trillions and billions of dollars in order to solve the issues of our people. And I know that that's not the issue, because I saw it happen when I was a baby and how little we had and how much was done with the little that we had. But what we did have, we had a unity of purpose. And that unity of purpose propelled us all. And that's the thing that I've asked of us now, is how can we galvanize a unity of purpose where the purpose is about this next generation as opposed to being about us? And what can we do wherever we are, whatever state we're in, we're able to mentor a younger person to be able to come behind us in this profession or this given field so that we can see some progress. So, the NBA basically blacklisted me at that point in my career. And for me, it was a burden and a blessing. The burden of knowing that you're capable of playing, but the blessing of being able to be with my sons who were teenagers at the time, and I could be with them every day and go in the gym and wax their heads like they were pros. So it was one of the things where I never stopped playing, but the fact that I had my sons there with me helped me all the way through that.
So knowing that, and knowing that the only people that really had a problem with it was the league, would you, if you could go back, would you have done it differently?
Not at all. And that's the part of growth, man. When I look at the lessons that I've learned since that period, that are so much more than whatever I could have earned within the league. If I would earn the type of money that I was supposed to earn during that period of time, I wouldn't be in a position now to be able to have both the courage, the confidence, and the critical ability to critique things in such a way that I didn't have back then, man. That even if I'd have had the money I had, I know that we wouldn't have gotten where we would need to be. And I feel like now I feel like time, situation, and this whole pandemic thing has put a whole different energetic with not only our community but across the planet, that's lending to a certain consciousness and a certain spirit of courageousness that hasn't been there before among our people.
If thinking about the blacklisting, because I've been blacklisted. I don't know if Lamont has. It's not a good feeling. Yeah, it's not a good feeling because you're not expecting it, because you're just telling the truth, or you're just showing up as you are, and then you lose jobs and opportunities because of something you said or did. But there are no rule books for you. Black people should never say this. If you do this, they didn't tell you up front. If you show up in a dashiki, that's going to cost. No one said this until after the fact, right? And then you don't get picked up. How do we navigate those spaces when, and it's like, you should know. You should have known. You should have showed up like that. But, who were you hurting? What were they afraid of, do you think? What do you think they were afraid of?
J. Edgar Hoover said the thing that he feared the most was unity of the Negro, period. And in that case, and knowing that you yourself, think about this. When Malcolm walked to the podium to make the ultimate sacrifice, he didn't know. Dr. King walked out the room at 6 o'clock. He didn't know. So the brother stood on the podium knowing that we're making a cause for black people and poverty and homelessness across the world, and they raised their fists. They didn't know that the ramifications come back home. I'm not going to be able to get a job because I'm the top world athlete. And we have, like yourself, you come on there and you say something. Now when you come off there, you can't go on there again, even though you're capable of saying so many things to save people. That in itself is one of those things that we have to educate. And one of the things I can say, sisters, and brotherhood, is that this generation, white, black, brown, and they have a certain energy right now where they're seeing through all of the falsehoods. So a lot of the airplay that you guys are getting that's taken away from CNN, NBC, and all of that is young folks are searching for that energy of truth. And they're looking for wherever they can find it. And now they're finding it in people that oftentimes don't look like them, and they know what white privilege has garnered them, and they're not cool with it. And it's not until that happens that we get, though you were saying it earlier, that until we get white people who are in ivory towers to admit to not only white privilege, but the mode of capitalism and the hurt and destruction of black people and black economics that it's caused, until then the conversation is mute in as far as what can be done in a holistic approach. But among ourselves, we can do it overnight. And it's happening already just in this. MJ, in this MJ documentary, I think it's a power that's beyond their power. So those who have put into place this whole economic venture of Last Dance, gym shoes, all of this, they somehow feel that is the power, but there's another power that's on the other side of that, and that's the power that we work with. And working with that power, it's something that's coming that's bigger than us, and we can feel it. It's like the championships. We knew we were getting ready to win, but we still got to do the work.
Craig Hodges, great NBA champion, author of Long Shot, soon to be a documentary as well. Sir, thank you for coming back in. Tell us about this documentary.
Well, it's a culmination of work. Like I said, when I wrote the book 18 months ago, actually, the book came out in 2017. It took me 18 months to write it. Got with the ghostwriter. I should have been published years earlier, but never really took the time. I thought I had something, but when I really sat down and saw the whole process, is like everything else, is something that you have to learn to do. I feel like everybody has a story to tell, and for me, it was just a combination of years of loving to write, but sitting down and actually telling the story. Many people have speculated about what happened in my career, and I wanted to, not necessarily set the record straight, but to just get my story out of me for my sons and my grandbabies, if nothing else, and to be able to be a published author was something that I wanted to do. And my first book signing was at my public library because I wanted to see my book in the library, because that was always one of the things I had in mind when I wanted to write it. And, I'm doing stuff with young people here in Chicago Heights area, and as far as getting a group of young people together, it's 11 of them, and we're putting together a compilation book where everybody writes their ideas of where we're going. And it's a journey of young people, where they're going, and it's like we're going on this fictional journey, but it's their vision of it. So it's a good thing that I feel like everybody should write, whether it be their ideas or what have you. But for me, in the process, I found that, you need to write down about 100 questions if you're thinking about writing a viable book, possibly, and depends on where those 100 questions flesh out is where your story would be. But for me, it was just learning the process of painting a picture that someone could see in their mind, what smells in the room, what type of aromas are around, and, what the vibrations are, from a lot of different areas. So in writing, it was meditation in a lot of ways for me. So I'm in the process of writing more. So right now I'm doing one on Tex Winter and the impact of the triangle in basketball, and the ability to use this book as a tool for up-and-coming coaches on I think, the best systematic way of playing the game.
And your documentary, which is you're working on now,
Yeah.
how is that going to be different from Last Dance?
Oh.
I'm a man.
Well, one of the things is that I know that, like with yourself, we're part of a fabric. We're not doing this in a vacuum. Like, we came up with something new in as far as fighting for freedom and human rights for people. And that's basically what it is. It's that, being able to show, going to the White House was just a long line of resistance fighters and freedom fighters and those who saw their time in their position of influence or what have you, to be able to attempt to make a difference, and make a difference you will, not necessarily in your time, but down the line even. I had a chance to speak to Dr. John Carlos, who's one of my heroes, and he told me that during the Olympic campaign, one of the things that they had spoke about when they found out all the players weren't going to boycott and all the runners and athletes weren't going to boycott, he said he felt disappointed, but he was reminded that they were laying seeds. And when he saw me go to the White House, he felt like one of their seeds had started to germinate, and that it made him know that what they did was good and right. And I feel the same way, that we're part of a collective that's not necessarily a whole lot of people, So it's true when they say the road to freedom is seldom traveled by the multitude. So we're blessed to be. So I feel blessed that MJ didn't include me in the whole video and documentary thing, because I feel like that set me apart, and I didn't want to be part of that whole collective of, the NBA was something that I was blessed to be a part of, but actually the inner workings of it is so ugly to me, as just from a spiritual end. And even when I was in it, some of the drama and some of the madness that was going on, like you spoke of with the Republican by Jim Shoes too. That whole commentary to me was ludicrous from the standpoint, had he not said anything, and I say, MJ, if he had not said anything, well, nobody cared about Republicans or Democrats buying gym shoes. They're going to buy gym shoes because they want your shoe brothers. They ain't got nothing to do with their politics. So until you bring it up, it becomes an issue. But until that point, my whole thing with that whole issue was, man, your mom told you to represent your brother.
Right.
Your mom tell you to do it, you do it. It ain't no biting back about him being Democrat or Republican.
I kind of appreciate it, though. In that moment, he also said that he gave money, and he said that, he kind of implied, well, this could be me inferring, that if he had it to do over again, he one, wouldn't have said what he said, or two, he might have went about it a little differently. So I kind of appreciated that, being somebody who hated the Bulls and hated Jordan growing up. I kind of appreciated that maturity. But I feel like, though, they could have at least mentioned you, because you were a pivotal part of the first couple, and they sat and talked with other people for 10 seconds and got mentions of other people who had no bearing on the success of the franchise. So I'm glad you didn't take it personal, and I'm glad you feel that it set you apart.
Brother, it's like this. To know that you have been systematically excluded. All right? Just to show you how far this goes, brother. All right. All-Star Weekend 2020 is in my hometown. I'm the first champion from Chicago on the first championship squad. I won 3 consecutive three-point titles in this town. I didn't get a ticket. I didn't get credentials. None of that for the weekend. Now, I said, okay. Now, when the memorabilia piece comes out, and I want y'all to check it out, it's in Slam Magazine. MJ is on the front, and on the back is his Unite campaign. Okay? That's the name of his marketing campaign for Zion Williamson. Now, I'm going to show y'all a picture. I'm going to send you a picture, because we're going to have this conversation. Mm-hmm. We did the Operation Unite campaign from 89 and 90, Queen Latifah, Chuck D. And I'm saying, brother, y'all exclude me from the documentary, which I didn't know anything about during All-Star Weekend. But then when I see the All-Star Weekend memorabilia come out, I don't have any tickets. I'm watching my colleagues at the table for credentials. They're getting the credentials, and you don't have any credentials for Craig Hodges. What's up with that? NBA first. And I know that's why I tell people, Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is a very, very, very small cog in this whole machinery. So when I look at the fact that you come out with a documentary during a pandemic, for one, economics. So let's look at what Rahm Emanuel says: never lose out on an economic opportunity when there is a calamity. So you already vibrating on that spirit of things. You're selling gym shoes in Atlanta, Georgia, during a pandemic with brothers and sisters standing shoulder to shoulder during the time we're dying at a certain rate untold. But Max Kellerman on ESPN with Stephen A. Smith, who called Craig Hodges out, and they won't invite me on the show. So I'm asking y'all, when y'all going to invite me on the show and allow me, Stephen A. Smith? And let me tell you, sister and brother, look how you frame this. You go into my history and say, oh, every black man got to respect Craig Hodges, but then you say, Craig Hodges was broke. Okay, brother, define that. Secondly, if I was broke, why you didn't reach out to me? Then you're going to say Phil Jackson brought him in. Basically a charity case. Now, man, Phil bringing in professionals to win championships. Don't try to equate my professionalism and my ability based on a charity case. No, brother, it's my intellect in the game and what I do. Likewise, I was, man, broke. What is broke, man? And that's sad, because we allow and we support buffoonery. And for that brother to call me out without, man, I got babies and grandbabies that watch your show, brother, and you going to call their family out? My sons are hot with you. I let them respond to you, and my sons don't respond in no physical manner, but allow them to be on your show and talk about Hodge for Hodge. Because the way y'all did me, that's cold. And MJ, how you not going to have a brother that's in the backcourt with you when you make that shot in Cleveland? How you not going to have a brother that's in the backcourt with you when the person that you call selfish had a migraine? I had 19 points. You had 18, brother. How did John Paxson get in the lineup and have Craig Hodges spot Michael Jordan? Ain't nobody asking them questions. And me being the teammate that I am, understanding where we were, I understand what went on in that summer when John Paxson got in the lineup. But, brother, I want you to tell me what went on. You follow me? Because you talk about selfish.
What
brother,
went on?
I want to know. I have had innuendo and people tell me from different circles that Michael wanted to play in the backcourt with John Paxson. And I'm saying, brother, what did I do to get me out of the lineup? I was averaging 15 points a game in the series when we went down. So come on, man. And triangle is what I learned in college. Check this out, sisterhood. When Tex Winter taught the triangle to the Chicago Bulls, that's how they framed it.
Right.
It was Craig Hodges and Tex Winter teaching the triangle, not the other way around, because Tex told them the first day when he implemented the system. Craig played in it. So allow him to show y'all how to do this. But ask MJ to admit that and that. And they want to talk to Zen Master. I love Phil. But Phil know where he got it from. He got it from Tex. And that's why ain't nobody running it now, because don't nobody want to hire me. And don't nobody on the planet know it but me now, because Tex is gone. So let's tell the truth on the game. That's why it's into this whole analytics of you have a positionless game in a game that has 5 players that have position. What is this about? This is about Europeans and white supremacy racism allowing more jobs for those who look like them as opposed to look like us. And once again, who is the only owner in the league that look like us? But when it came to negotiating on behalf of, when he was a player, Michael was with players. When he now is the owner, he's against the players and us making revenue. Come on, brother. Come on, man. And I've been cool about this thing, but sis, it's time. It's time for this. It's time for truth, and it's time for truth to be told about a lot of things concerning the game where I'm concerned, because they want to try to make it like all Craig Hodges could do was shoot. Check this out. It wasn't no three-point shot in the game, in the college or high school basketball when I played. So when I came to the league, I didn't come into the league as a three-point shooter like Steph Curry. I came into the league as a point guard, period.
Right. So with all that being said, right, every generation has its activists in sports. We play like, a lot of us play like Colin Kaepernick was the first. But you got people like you got people like Chris
John
Jackson,
Carlos and Tommy Smith, he just mentioned. Yes.
Kareem, Ernie Banks, Jim Brown, people like that, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf.
No doubt.
Do you think the conversation today actually on social media was, do you think athletes are obligated to take social positions, given their size of their platforms now and their reach?
For me, I say too much is given, much is required. And it's not upon any of us to say when someone comes into that consciousness to have a given spirit. But what I say is, don't be a roadblock to someone who is attempting to teach on behalf of your people. So when I look at Colin Kaepernick, I look at there's a certain amount of commercialism around that also from Nike. You know what I'm saying? So there's a certain part of it that it is what it is. I'll get your bread, brother, because you deserve it. No problem with that. You're doing the great things that you're doing. My position is now and will be is that we have to build this collective consciousness of community within our young student athletes early, so that it's a part, the community is an essence in you. You know what I'm saying? And that it's one of those things where we're blessed. We're blessed to have models. So where I look at now, you have this generation where you got some brothers who are standing up doing some things, even like you said, we back in the day, we had to research those brothers that you're talking about on a certain level. You might have seen Kareem, but you didn't know the background of it because you didn't go into it, and that wasn't your particular thing. But you can see by just certain symbolism. Like I was talking to Dr. John Carlos, he said he should be a movie star by now because his face and image has been in so many movies and TV. So it's one of those things that we have to just continue to drive, man. And I feel like we as brothers have to know that now. It's sisterhood's time. It's their 25,000-year period to reign, and we we who are brothers, we have to make sure that we make that foundational support so strong that they understand that, yeah, we forgive y'all now because we see the brothers stepping to the plate doing some powerful things, and we know y'all the kings y'all are. And that's why I feel it's a certain look in the power structure today. They don't know what to expect coming out of this whole thing they call quarantine. But for us, I tell people, in the city of Chicago, there would have been no way to stop the number of murders without the quarantine. And during the first part of the quarantine, there wasn't a whole lot of shooting going on because everybody had to be in the crib. Now, how can we foster that same hunker-down mentality and go out here, but when we hunkering down, we putting down our weapons and we going out here and rolling? But see, that's another whole topic.
Oof.
And that's why I say MJ and resources.
We're going to have you back. I want to make sure people get to talk to you and give you your roses, brother, because you deserve them. Justice in, is that Massachusetts? You're on with Mr. Dr. Craig Hodges. Give him his.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Brother Craig, I read your book, man, and, man, you are paramount, brother. Much respect. I'm up here in the hills getting to work out there, guys. But I just want to give a quick shout-out, man, and thank you for your contribution to society. Much respect. I'm a little winded at this point, so I kind of forgot what I was up.
I'm glad you're exercising.
I'm telling you.
I got to do it.
Yes, get something in for me, brother. I appreciate you.
So that book is long shot. There's going to be a documentary by the same name later on this year or next year?
Well, actually, they're still working on the name. Dave Zyron, who wrote the foreword for my book, his thing was he came when I spoke to him about it. He was like, man, every time I go in the NBA locker rooms, I'm asking people about social activism, and they're constantly coming back and saying, don't be like Craig Hodges. And that was wild to me that this is actually something that either an agent or a manager, general manager, coach, somebody that has studied or saw what, 31, 32 years of age, that's what Kevin Durant is in his career now. And I wasn't able to play again. And that's so,
it's crazy.
It's wild to me, but my competitive mindset is still there to a certain degree where I still have certain times in my mind where I think about hooping. And I think about, like, when I go in the gym now, I still shoot my 200 or 300 J's. And it's one of the things where it never stopped. And to a degree, I'm so happy that it went the way that it went, because I think that had I retired, I might have, sat back and tried to get fat or whatever, but fat ain't even in my gene pool. But anyway, it was, just sitting back chilling as opposed to staying constant in research and having your mind on saving and doing anything you can for this next generation.
What are your thoughts on LeBron James?
Love that brother. Love him. I love him and Lord rest his soul, Kobe. I think they were going to do some real big things after their career, after LeBron got done. I think, when we talk about some political circles, I think some of that was in the plans for us, especially some of the moves Kobe was making internationally. I think he might have been setting the stage to possibly utilize that later on in some stature, whether it be in the political realm or whether it be in the diplomatic realm. But he was doing some things internationally, and LeBron is the same way, where, they realize that they have the impact, internationally over Muhammad Ali, and that they can wield power. And I've been, impressed with his ability to mentor younger brothers and bring them along in the business mindset that, it shows that it can be done, and it can be done with you and your own kind, and that we don't have to. And that's one of the cool parts about who we are as a people, and it's so blessed, but it's that blessing and burden is that since we can do everything, we feel like we don't have to do everything within home. That I'm a great lawyer, I don't have to be a great lawyer and be a great lawyer in the black community alone. But right now, we need everybody to come to the crib. Come to the crib for 2 or 3 months. Great lawyer, great economic. Come on to the crib. We build a crib. Let's call it the family reunion. You know what I'm saying? Everybody come to the crib. We have a family reunion of African people the globe over. Do it virally. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, let's see how many people can put up pictures from Ghana, Zimbabwe. You know what I'm saying? And then we bring the family home. We say, you know what? Man, look at what we're capable of doing. And then move.
Fire. Reggie in Virginia, you're on with Craig Hodges. Hey, Reggie.
First of all, we have to always say peace and blessing to the beautiful queen. I bow to your greatness, my queen. Peace and blessing to you. Now, Mr. Hodges, my cousin Pat Freeman, you was on this show a couple of weeks. You remember that, sir?
Yes, sir.
Hey, I want to thank you for being a strong black man. And the first thing that really pissed me off, because I know we're on cable, when that thing came out, I know you're going to mention the name of that piece on ESPN. And I'm just going to say, first I said, where's Craig Hodges? Where's Craig Hodges? And it just amazed me how a certain individual that makes all this money off of shoes and people are getting killed for his shoes made sure that you were nowhere to be found in that piece, that thing they did. So, black man, I want to thank you so much for being a strong black man and love your people when so many people didn't love you.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you, man. And you know what's so funny about that to me is that you can try to tap dance around it, but you know, you'll see me on the plane. You know, you'll see me driving Scotty. You'll see me driving horse. And all of that's cool. See, little stuff like that gives my heart joy. It ain't even about sitting there interviewing, what was it like to be with Michael? No, but to see us where what we were striving for, at some points we felt it was unattainable. And then to actually be in the moment and working towards it and see everybody pulling their weight. Yeah, MJ, you great, but we have to get to our levels of greatness. You know, and everybody's greatness correlated at the same time with our coaches being great. Man, that's the part of it that he should be highlighting, and that's the part that brings unity. That now it's not picking sides. It's not Stephen A. Smith and Jay Williams talking about Craig Hodges. It's a unity thing, man, and I feel like this whole thing could have been more unified in the way that, just like how we won. We won in unity. It wasn't about Michael Jordan when we was in our huddle and Cliff was saying, "What time is it?" That wasn't about MJ. That was about the crew, and we getting ready to win this thing. So it's bigger than that.
And you're bigger than that. Craig Hodges, you got an open seat at our table. I want you to come back and just chop it up about anything, because you could talk about anything.
Anytime. And once again, like I said, I'll make sure that I get you all the information as the documentary and film gets closer to coming out, because once again, it's not, you know, like you said, how the book is doing. When I was learning to play basketball and I got drafted, I didn't even think about the money of it. And that's how silly I am. Then I'm still silly. Like right now, the money from the book, the money from the movie, I ain't tripping on that. I'm tripping on, man, can our people see what potential we have? Can our people see that we came from greatness? And since we came from greatness, it's not like Trump's job, make America great again or make Africans great again. It ain't none of that. We already great. We stay great. We always going to be great, because that's the stock that we come from. And that being the stock that we come from, it's all about us coming to unity, sister and brother. Let me know whenever y'all have me back. I'm honored and privileged. And everybody there listening, y'all be safe. And make sure y'all drinking plenty of your water.
Yes, sir, Craig. And buy his book, because we need to support people who are out there doing the work and not caring about the money. The book is called Long Shot. We will tweet out a link. Let's make that book #1 as well. Craig Hodges, you come back anytime, brother. And warm hugs to you and your family and your mom.